Hello guys, welcome to Clarity for Sure, and I welcome you all to yet another episode of Concept Clarity lecture series by Agriclarity. So today our topic of discussion will be plantation crops. So without a further ado, let's begin with this session. So today we are going to discuss about three of the most important plantation crops from which there is a high probability of questions being asked in exams like IBPS A4 and NABARD grade A. And there have been questions related to these three crops, okay, that we have seen over the years. So as I discuss, I'll also discuss with you the different sort of questions which has been asked. Okay, so let us talk about first crop, which is tea. So you know that tea is a very important plantation crop for India. Okay, so scientific name of tea is your Camellia sinensis, and tea belongs to the family of Theaceae. What is the origin of tea? So that is China, right? So that is why the scientific name is sinensis. Okay. Now, tea is regarded to be the queen of beverage crop. Study of tea is known as ceology, and the propagation of tea. Okay. So tea is propagated by what? Cuttings. So it's a very specific cutting type in case of tea, which is known as the single node cutting. Okay, it is known as the single node cutting. Flowers of tea are bisexual and the fruit of tea is capsule. So even though it produces fruit, we prefer what? Single node cutting to propagate tea. Why? Because then our tree bushes will establish faster. Then next, if you see, tea prefers an acidic range. Okay, so that is why you will see that tea is mainly grown in what? In hilly areas, right? And we know that in the hilly areas, the pH range is generally what? Soil pH is generally acidic, right? Okay. And also, why this tea is grown in upland areas? Because tea cannot tolerate waterlogging. Okay. All right. So then a very important question is what? That the color compounds in tea is due to what? Theaflavins and thea-erophygens. Then fresh leaves of tea contains 36% polyphenolic compounds. Okay, so very important. Each of these data are very, very important. So you need to pay attention and you need to note down the different points that I've mentioned in here. Okay, these are very crisp points. Only if you see this, a lot of questions you can solve. Okay, right. So next we'll talk about in details about this tea. Okay, so here you see methods of planting. All right, so in case of tea, the methods of planting are what? Single hedge system and double hedge system. Okay, so single hedge means only like this. Okay, the tea plants will be there only in one row. Okay, the tea bushes, in case of double hedge, what we'll see together there will be two rows, and then again there will be another two rows. Okay, so this is your double hedge system. So spacing between the two, this double hedge, okay, is more than what spacing is there between these two rows of plants. Okay. Okay. Now, next, what we'll see is that pruning. A very important operation in tea is pruning, isn't it? So, pruning is done in the months of August, September, or April, May. And another thing is very important, that pruning, the lightest form of pruning is skiffing, whereas the most severe form of pruning is what? Collar pruning. Okay. Now, pruning in case of tea is very important. All right. And so many datas of pruning and the terminologies of pruning I've explained in one of the videos, okay, where you can search in our channel, in our Agriclarity channel, that is terminologies related to plantation crop. Okay, I have discussed the pruning of tea very nicely in those in that video. So check out those video to clarify your concept. Okay, so I've just mentioned, that is why I've mentioned in that video, I've mentioned very details. So I've just mentioned here the names. Okay, so skiffing is the lightest form of pruning in tea, and collar pruning is the most severe form of pruning. Okay, another form of pruning is a tipping. Tipping is what? It is the practice of removal of terminal portion of shoot, or more particularly 4 leaves in a bud. Okay, so we've seen in propagation of your tea, isn't it? In propagation of tea, it was what? It is single node bud. Okay, now what is tipping? This is a four leaves bud. Another term you will get in here, that is in the harvesting part. Okay, two leaves and a bud. Okay, two leaves and a bud. So these are the three terminologies you need to remember. Okay, propagation is single node cutting, then tipping is what? Four leaves and a bud, removal of four leaves and a bud, and harvesting of tea is what? That is two leaves and a bud. Now harvesting, particularly in tea, we call it as plucking, right? Plucking of leaves. And so plucking, it commences from 3-year-old bushes, and plucking, it consists of an unopened bud and two leaves, and that is why it is known as two leaves and a bud. Okay. All right. Again, very important points in harvesting is rush period and lean period. So what do you understand by rush period? So rush period is when tea leaves are harvested at an interval of 7 to 10 days, whereas lean period is what? When it is harvested at an interval of 10 to 15 days. So which is the main season, or we can say which is the main harvest then? This one. Rush period is the main harvest. Okay. Then what should be the moisture content of the leaves during storage or at storage? It is 3%. Again, very important data. Okay. All right. Now then we'll see about the major tea types. So there are mainly three types of tea: green tea, black tea, and oolong tea. Major difference between these three types of tea is what? That when we say green tea, it is the unfermented or unoxidized tea, whereas black tea is the fermented and oxidized tea, and oolong tea is between black and green. That is, it is partially fermented. Okay, that is the basic difference between green tea, black tea, and oolong tea. Then if you see, that is the types of processing of tea leaves: CTC, crush, tear, curl. So this was one of the PYQ of IBPS A4. Okay, this is one of the PYQ of IBPS A4: crush, tear, and curl. So in crush, tear, and curl, what are the processes that are involved? You do not need to go in details, just you can sort out what are the processes in case of crush, tear, and curl. Okay, so that is withering, rolling, fermentation, heating and drying, sorting, grading, gapping, and what? Packing and transport. So this terminology, gapping. Okay, again, in the video that I told you, related terminologies related to plantation, I've explained it very well. So this is nothing but while processing the tea leaves, they gather some extra moisture. Okay, the tea leaves, while all these processes. So withering is mainly what? The drying process, right? And then we go for rolling, fermentation, heating, drying, sorting, ready. So up to this point, what happens that even after drying, during the processing, okay, in these processes, the tea leaves, it gathers some atmospheric moisture. Okay, but that moisture is very detrimental during storage. So that is, gapping is what? It's the removal of that extra moisture that the tea leaves have absorbed during the processing. Okay, that is gapping. Next, after gapping, we go for packaging and transport. So this whole process comes under crush, trade, and curd. The next we have is the orthodox tea and the green tea. So these are the three types of processing of tea leaves, and these are the three major types of tea. Okay, right. So this is all about the tea, the major points that you need to consider for IBPS A4 and NABARD grading sort of objective questions. Okay, because यही से पूछेंगे, इससे ज्यादा उतना कुछ पूछते हैं नहीं. दे आर नॉट गोइंग टू गो दैट डीप. ओके, और अगर पूछ भी लिया तो इट विल बी जस्ट फॉर 1 mark, isn't it? So you can skip that if it is too deep, but if you go too deep in each and every subjects, then क्या होगा कि horizontal coverage जो है वो नहीं हो पाएगा. So that is why this much is what is important. Okay, you need to know this much. You cannot compromise on this. ओके, इससे कम नहीं पढ़ सकते, लेकिन इससे ज्यादा अगर आपके पास टाइम है तो प्लीज पढ़ लीजिए, वरना दिस इज मोर देन इनफ. Okay, so next crop that we're going to go for is your coffee. Okay, so in coffee, if you see, the scientific name is Coffea genus. I mean, the genus of coffee is Coffea, and there are two particular species, major species in coffee. That is Coffea, Coffee arabica, and Coffee robusta. Okay, these are the two major types of coffee. Then coffee belongs to the family of Rubiaceae. Okay, and it is the king of beverage crops, right? So tea was the queen, coffee is the king. Origin is Ethiopia, and fruit is what? Drupe. Okay, so what is this? Is it the fruit? No, it is the bean, right? The seed actually, the bean. So seed of coffee is known as what? The seed of coffee is known as bean. Okay, coffee beans, that's why. This is what? This is a bean. Next, if you see, propagation is by seeds, and coffee is a perennial plant. It's a short day plant. Okay, pH is again 4.5 to 6.5. So this also, coffee also prefers a slightly acidic pH range, right? But tea, if you see, it's more acidic as it can tolerate more acidic soil as compared to coffee. Okay, right. Next is, let's talk on details about more things about coffee. So as I was talking about, the two most important species of coffee, okay, coffee Arabica and coffee Robusta. So Arabica coffee, if you see, it is known for its smoother, sweeter, and more complex flavor profile. Whereas Robusta, if you see, it is a stronger, more bitter taste with higher caffeine content. So this is the major differences between Arabica coffee and Robusta coffee. So robust Arabica coffee is higher, the cost of Arabica coffee is high. Okay, why is the cost of Arabica coffee is high? Because it has a smoother flavor and it has a more complex flavor profile. Okay, it's more preferred by consumers. And Robusta has what? Higher caffeine content. So you can remember that these are the two major important species of coffee. Okay, so coffee family we have seen it is what? Rubiaceae, right? Okay. Next, uh, one question for you. So tell me two crops, okay, which also belongs to the family of Rubiaceae. Okay, what are the two other crops which belongs to the family of Rubiaceae? So this is the task for you. All right. Okay. So one we have seen coffee, right? And so two others that belongs to this family of Rubiaceae. Okay, next we'll talk about the different varieties of coffee. So Kent variety, it's an earliest variety. Then we have San Roman, Kaveri, Kurg, Katura. So there was a question in one of the previous years that Kent is the variety of which crop? Okay, there was a question. Kent is the variety of which crop? So what you would write? Coffee. Okay, here flowering time is important. Okay, in tea, what was important is pruning time. Okay, because according to the pruning only the new flushes will come out and then only they can go for plucking of tea. But in case of coffee, what is important? Flowering is important. Okay, so pruning is for tea. Okay, whereas if you see if for coffee, what is important? Flowering. Okay, why? Because only if it flowers at the particular season, right? There will be production of what? The seeds and the fruit and the seeds, the beans, isn't it? So coffee, flowering is important. Therefore, what we have seen that in case of coffee, we have focused on the point that coffee is a what? Short day plant, right? Coffee is a short day plant. So these are the two things that you need to remember. So flowering takes place from September to March, and training system in coffee is single stem system. Okay. So when do we start harvesting? You see, starts harvesting November. Okay. And it extends up to February. So flowering will start from September and will continue to March. Okay. And harvest, it's during November and extends up to February. So commercial for the commercial purpose. Otherwise थोड़ा बहुत तो flowers वैसे भी मार्च तक extend हो जाता है. लेकिन for commercial purpose, harvest starts during November and it extends up to February. Berries, when they are harvested, when they are fully ripe, okay. And on gently squeezing ripe जो berries है, okay, the seeds or the beans comes out easily. Okay. Now again, like in tea, we have seen rush period and flush period. So, sorry, rush period and lean period. So here, in case of coffee, you will see these four important terminologies which are related to harvest of coffee. So one is your fly picking. Okay, this is generally done from October to February, and this is a small scale picking. Main picking, where the bulk harvest is obtained. Okay, and in case of main picking, only the ripened and well-formed berries are taken. All right. Then we have stripping, wherein what we do is that we pick berries irrespective of the ripening. So immature, unripe, or fully ripe, overripe, whatever. Everything is being collected in case of what? Stripping. And what is cleaning? That is while harvesting, certain fruits may be dropped on the ground. Okay. So that collection of fruits that may have been dropped during harvesting is known as what? Cleanings. Okay. So this is on details about coffee that you need to focus on. Next crop we have is cashew nut. Okay. So in case of cashew nut, what we'll see first is Anacardium occidental. Okay, this is the scientific name of cashew. Belongs to the family of Anacardiaceae. Now, another task for you is that mention a major fruit crop which belongs to the family of Anacardiaceae. Okay, major fruit crop that belongs to the family of Anacardiaceae. Okay, so one I've asked you to answer two crops that belongs to the family of Rubiaceae apart from coffee, and this is another task for you, that is which of the major fruit crop belongs to the family of Anacardiaceae. Then next, let us say about cashew. So origin is Brazil, and cashew can be grown up to an altitude of 400 meters. Okay. Then we have that cashew is a what? Cross-pollinated crop, and it is mainly propagated by honeybees. Okay, it is mainly propagated by honeybees. Temperature that it can tolerate is 20 to 30 degrees centigrade, most optimum temperature. And propagation of cashew is by softwood grafting and epicotyle grafting, wherein softwood grafting is most preferred. Okay, so what is this? This is the cashew apple, right? And this is the cashew, the nut from which we derive, isn't it? And you know that this cashew apple is also edible, right? And this is what? It's a false fruit. Okay, all right. Next, let us see in details about some of the important points that you need to consider for preparing exams like IBPS A4 NABARD grade A, okay, from the objective point of view. That one thing is about the spacing. Okay, so spacing, you need to remember the varieties, you need to remember. Now, one of the easiest ways to remember cashew varieties if you know the series name. Okay, so therefore, I have mentioned only as series, not the numbers. Okay, so Vengula series, Madakathara series, then Ulal series, okay, then we have Goa series. So these are Chintamani series. So these are some of the series that you can remember. Um, if you see these names, automatically you'll have to understand these are what? All cashew. Okay. Then next we'll go for is harvesting. Okay. And then is your bearing in cashew starts 3 years. So in tea just now, we have seen that we can start the plucking in tea from 3 years, right? And even in case of cashew also, we can go for, means the cashew starts bearing, okay, starts bearing from 3 year, third year, but the full bearing, it is from the 10th year onwards, okay? That means we'll get the commercial yield from this 10th year. Then another very important thing is your flotation method. What is this flotation method? That is, it's a judgment of the maturity of cashew nuts. Okay. If the nuts sink in the water, then they are considered to be matured. Next is two major byproducts of cashew. So again, very important. This is your cashew nut shell liquid, and another one is what? Shell charcoal. Okay. So cashew nut shell liquid is what? That the pericarp of the nut is made up of three parts. So that is epicarp, the spongy mesocarp, and the stony endocarp. In this mesocarp, we have a viscous liquid. Okay, a viscous liquid which is known as CNSL, that is cashew nut shell liquid. And this liquid has many industrial uses. Okay, like it can be used as a valuable raw material, like for paints, varnishes, resins. Okay, and also it protects against what? Insects. Okay, then what is the major constituent of this shell oil? That is cardinol and anacardic acid. Next is shell charcoal. So whatever we have, the shell, okay, the remains of the shell that we have left out after the extraction of the liquid, that is known as shell charcoal, and which can be also used as fuel. And this shell charcoal is also sometimes used as fuel for the processing of cashew. Okay, so एक ही चीज से हमें काफी सारी चीजें help हो रही है, right? Okay. Next, we'll talk about the processing of cashew. Again, very important. So in case of processing, first is a roasting. Obviously, we have to go for drying and roasting of cashew, isn't it? Cashew cannot be consumed as such. So we need to go for processing. The first step of processing is roasting. So there are different methods in which cashew can be roasted. Next is shelling. Shelling is nothing but the removal of the outer layer, isn't it? So shelling percentage again is very, very, very important. Okay, this is again very important. So please mark this point that shelling is very important, shelling percentage. So shelling percentage of cashew is 20 to 25%. Then peeling is nothing but the removal of testa from the kernels. Sweating is what? That kernels spread out in floor to allow moisture absorption, done to prevent breaking during grading. Okay, so sweating in case of cashew, right? Okay, I'll just write it down in here. So sweating in case of cashew versus what? Versus gapping. Okay. So versus gapping in tea, right? In gapping, we remove the moisture, whereas in sweating, we allow absorption of moisture. Okay. The two things are different. So gapping में हम क्यों moisture को dry होने देते हैं? So that during storage there is no extra moisture which would otherwise spoil the tea leaves. Whereas in sweating, why we allow moisture absorption? So that during grading processing, the cashew nuts are not broken. Okay, so these are the two things. So you can compare. If you compare and read, you will never forget. Okay, and in case of cashew grading, there are 25 exportable grades. Okay. Now, one important thing that I have been repeating during this video, that please check out the video on the terminologies of plantation crop to have a comprehensive understanding and a comprehensive knowledge about plantation crops. Okay, because in case of plantation crops, terminologies based questions are very important, right? So do check that video, and that's available on the channel itself. So that's all for today. Let's meet another time. Till then, start with your preparation properly, and we'll meet next time. Thank you.